All right, so welcome everyone to United Cerebral Palsy Association of Hawaii's second parent resource Pauhana. These are designed to happen once a quarter, and depending on how successful they are, we can offer them more or less frequently. But we try and put together webinars, seminars on topics that are really, really important to the parents and caregivers of our children and adults with disabilities, the folks we serve, and then other folks, out in the community. So feel free to share these resources with others. Let them know that we have programming like this. And just as a heads up, and I'll remind you at the end, our next parent resource Kahana will be September 12th, and that will be on voting, the accessibility of voting, the ability for adults with disabilities to vote if they want to vote, how they can register, how they can find accessible places and folks to work with. And we'll be doing that September 12th, which is also a Thursday. So again, if you haven't put your zip code in the chat, throw that in there so we can track that for City and County of Honolulu. And I'm going to hand it over to Amanda Ka'ahanui, who is the co-lead. I don't know what your proper title is of SPIN. You're just like, all the things. Amanda's one of the first folks I met when I came to the island. She's one of the first folks I reached out to when I went to work for United Cerebral Palsy. She is just extremely well versed. She knows the resources. Her organization collects the resources and makes sure that those are available to parents and caregivers and to children and adults with disabilities. And she'll explain more about what that looks like. Amanda, take it away.
Awesome sauce. Thanks, Karen. Aloha, everybody. Again, my name is Amanda Ka'ahanui. Can you hear me okay? Making sure my mic is working. All right. And I am a program specialist is my official title because I'm with the Department of Health and I'm with SPIN, the Special Parent Information Network. Have you guys heard of SPIN before? I hope. Good. Some head nods there. Awesome. It's amazing. We've been around for nearly 40 years and so many people still don't know about SPIN. So I'm so glad that we get to come and chat with you. My partner, Susan Rocco, has been with SPIN almost from the get-go. We just had our 38th conference and she has done every single one of them. So she is my wealth of information that I called when my kiddo was going through the system. He's now 20. He's graduated with a diploma. He's a person with a disability. He's up at Windward Community College, and we're waiting for DVR to hook him up for summer employment. So excited for that. So I'm going to share my screen here with you folks, and I have it never looks like it's supposed to. Oh, that's why. Okay. It never looks like it's supposed to until when you're ready to start. You think you have it all ready to go. There we go. And I'm also going to
Amanda, before you start, will you just let folks know how you want to address questions that they may have?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Karen. If you have a question, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Karen's going to be monitoring there. And if it's in our group, I'll probably ask after each little section, because I've kind of broken it up into sections. I know we have folks from different ages and stages, and so we'll go through them. And then if you have questions, please do ask them, drop them in the chat. I'm not opposed to, like I've got a burning question, ask it, drop it in the chat and ask it, and we'll address it then. Because I'm getting a little older, and if I don't like write things down or type it in the chat, ping, it pops out of my head. So that's totally okay. But yeah, start there with the chat, and if it's really burning, raise your hand and we'll get to it and talk to it. And then we'll have hopefully time at the end to talk story and address any other questions that might come up. Thanks, Karen. Okay, so I have some slides I want to share with you guys, and then I have some links that I'm going to share with you as well. So just a little bit about SPIN. We're the Special Parent Information Network, and we are in the Department of Health, and we create resources, and don't create them, but we find resources, collect them, and then share them out with parents. And we're in the Department of Health but our money comes from a Department of Education. So it's IDEA federal funds. And they made it that way so families had a place to get unbiased information. And sometimes they call us to complain about the department, and they didn't want to be complaining to the people they were complaining about. So that's kind of how Spin got its start. We're a two-mama team, Susan Rocco again, and myself. And our scope of service is birth to 22 because that's IDEA. Although folks will call, my kid's 30 and I'm looking for services, that's totally okay, especially if they've kind of been through Spin and they know we're sort of a resource and a warehouse for information, folks can call. And then what we believe in is parent-to-parent support. We believe strongly in that. I learned early on in my son's early intervention career that parent-to-parent support was super important. We also believe in community and educational community, depending on the student and their needs. But the more we can get our kids involved in our schools and our classes, the more we can get them involved later on in working in the community and being a part of that community, because we're not going to be here forever. So I want my kiddo to be a part of the community that he lives in, and I want people to know him, and know he's a little quirky, but also know that he's a kind of a cool kid. We believe in family school partnerships. So folks call Spin and they're often at their rope's end, but we're still always trying to bring back around, like we need to still try to figure out how to rebuild some bridges or at least get through to the next school year. Sometimes that's all we can do. And that we believe information is power. And that when we have good information, we make better informed decisions. So that's really kind of our basic Spin. That's who we are. Tonight, we're going to talk about who's here and what info you need. We're going to do some Spin resources at a glance. We're going to talk a little bit about the department and how it's set up. Some of you have gone through it already and know, but some folks don't always know where to call, who to call, or who the right people are to talk to if there's a problem. And then if there's a problem, how can we work through that? We'll talk a little bit about the early intervention transition into the Department of Ed or other preschool programs, and then a little bit about transition from the Department of Ed into adult life, which I know, Julie, you are going to be coming up into that pretty soon with your middle schooler. Okay, so first thing we wanted to do is just kind of get an idea of who's here. This helps me to make sure I'm talking to the right folks and making sure that I'm sharing information that's relevant to you. So if you can, in the chat, just type in your child's age or grade, excuse me, what kind of resources and information that's important to you right now. Right now was a term that I'd heard from a mom. She's like a Facebook mom. I started watching her. I really liked her messaging, and she uses this term right now. And I think that's so important. I've used it myself. It helps me to feel like whatever else is going on in my life and whatever else is happening with my kiddo, right now is where I'm at. And tomorrow is going to come when tomorrow comes, and yesterday is behind me. But today, right now, that's what I'm focusing on. So what's important to you right now? And then I always like to have a little icebreaker question, and I am a chocoholic. So let me know what your favorite special foodie treat is. And you can pop that in the chat if you feel like it. I just discovered those sugar-free candies, those Russell Stover ones, the coconut ones and the mint ones. Someone had brought them to the office, and I needed chocolate, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually really good. I thought they would be horrible, but they weren't. They were good. Okay, so if you can, let us know how old your kiddos are. If you're with a program, just let me know you're with a program too, because I can talk about the program and how you can then support the families that you're working on. So we've got a 15-year-old getting ready to start high school. We've got a 12-year-old going on 13. Ethel's wondering, I don't know what high schools to go to. That's a good question, Ethel. I live on the windward side, and when we moved here to Kaneohe, we have 3 high schools really to look at. We had Castle, which had been our home school. We had Kailua, which is a little bit farther, and then Kalaheo. And I actually went to all 3 of them. I went to their parent night, their open house nights. I asked questions about inclusion. I asked questions about supports for students, all kinds of questions, and what their CTE programs looked like, all and what their clubs looked like, and then made a decision based on all that information. And we GE'd actually to Kalaheo, and that's where he graduated from. So it's important to think about that. It just because your homeschool is, like for us, it was Castle, doesn't mean your kiddo has to go there. Really be looking around if you can find the way to get them there. Now, remember that if you GE to a school or do a geographical exception, the schools won't provide transportation. Only if it's a program placement will they provide that transportation. So it looks like we've got some little guys. Oh, ice cream. I'm enjoying some peanut butter chocolate ice cream right now. It's in my freezer. Got a little 4-year-old. Oh, chocolate covered marzipan. Oh, I see. I love you guys so much, chocolate people. Oh, CTE. Thank you, Ethel. That's college and career education, CTE, college and technical information. So it's basically classes that students can take while they're in high school to sort of focus them. My kiddo wants to be in media. He's a media guy, creative media, and they had a media CTE or college and technical education program that he took all 4 years while he was in high school. Cinnamon rolls. When we go to Pearl Ridge, we have to go upstairs to the Cinnabon and get get one of those because I don't live on that side. So it's a special treat. Okay, so let's go ahead and excuse me, talk about some spin supports. So if you know spin, I hope that you've been to the spin websites. We have 2 of them. Our main website is spinconference.org. And that's where our conference website, spinconference.org, we started it at the pandemic when we had been doing conferences in person. And all of a sudden, like, now what do? We didn't want to leave folks hanging, especially during the pandemic when it was really important to find resources and information. So we pivoted to a virtual conference and created a new website to put all of that information and stash all of those recorded workshops. Great thing about Zoom is you can record those workshops and get a really good sound and all the slides and all that fun stuff. So we've got lots of recorded workshops there, as well as some other resources on the spinconference.org website. And then our spinhawaii.org is the main site, and that's got lots of stuff in there, including our newsletters. If you go, oh, I heard about the Spin newsletter, I want to go back and check those out. They're archived there. Infographics are a big thing that we love to do. It's a way to get information out, hopefully in a simple, easy to read way. And then that little picture there on the side here is a parent's guide to special education. And that is kind of our special ed, not Bible, but it's our go-to resource that when we're looking at what does the state law say about special education, what does the federal law say about special education, that's a document that Spin and Susan created to help families understand the process. So lots of good stuff there. And I'm gonna, let's see, I have a new share. I'm trying to be all fancy here with you guys. Okay, new share. Let's go there. I'm gonna come over to there. Okay, can you guys see that screen with the workshops? So if you go to spinconference.org, you'll come to the 24 conference is what we just had this past April. And then this workshop video tab. So you can see that we've got everything by year that we did. And we did some special ones in there too. There's some great transition ones in here. These spring transition ones, Julie, would be really great for you to take a look at too. But as we're like adding more to it, I created this yellow tab here that shows you all of the workshops that we have right now. So we've got some great ones on early intervention, literacy, coaching, and then this transitioning from early intervention to the Department of Education, and some fantastic ones about the transition to adult. So these are already there. You can watch them, and they're on YouTube. You can watch them anytime. But if you also want to know about mindfulness, This one right here, the stress managing with laughter and the stress and resilience are fantastic. I watch them probably once every 2 or 3 months just to remind myself how to breathe, do some box breathing, and laugh, and to sort of let that stress go. But there's some really great stuff in here, and we invite you to come and look. They're free. You can watch them anytime, share them wherever you'd like. On the Spin Hawaii website, you'll see we have this is our main page. We have a special education 101 page that we're still fluffing out. So if it's got a link here, it's got a page. If like here's a transition to adult, and if I click on that, it's going to give me different infographics. It's going to give me videos that I can watch, toolkits and things. So all that stuff is in there. If you're looking for, I think I have an early intervention one. Do I have one yet? Do you see it? I don't know if I have it yet. Still working on it. So if it doesn't have a link, I'm still working on it. If you ever come to our website and you go, I was looking for this and it wasn't there, please drop me an email or give us a call, because that's the kind of information that we would like to know. As a parent going through the system, I remember and I still know like what I was looking for, but I want to know what you need. And if it's not here, we want to make sure that we add it. The parent guide to special education is the one I was talking about. That's this thing. Now, this is a physical copy. We're just in the process of getting some funds from the Department of Education. The Community Children's Council is going to print these for us so that we'll have them again. It's a great little flip chart, easy to find, but we also have them here. So if we're looking at child find and what that process is to, get into the Department of Education, all the information is here so that you can see what that looks like, and you can go page by page. Or if you have a disagreement with the school, or if you want to know what those categories are, all of those are here in the parent guide. We've got a list of community resources. You can browse them by topic. Our spin newsletters. We've got a calendar page. So if we know something is happening, like, oh, look, here's the Pauhana series right there on our calendar, you can find it there. And then this is my favorite tab. It's our infographics tab. And we've created so many, I had to put them in little collections. And so if I'm looking for transition to adult, then I'm going to find them here. All of our infographics that we've created. Snickerdoodles. Oh, Melissa, I love snickerdoodles. I get distracted by sweets in the chat. Okay. But here's where you can find them, and you can download them as PDFs right here, or just click on them and it makes them a little bit bigger. Stuff that's really important as you're moving through the system. I know for our early intervention families, like, I can't even think about transition, but we do want you to be thinking about things to do to prepare your kiddo as time goes by. And if your kid's going to turn 18 in the next year or two, this document right here, this transition, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, about transfer of rights when your kid turns 18. That's all here. Stuff on diploma versus certificate, micro enterprise, ABLE programs for saving money, all that's in there. So we invite you to come and just spend a little bit of time looking through the infographics tab. Here's our early intervention transition one. So we've got lots of good things. If you're wondering, like, what is that IEP team and who's in it, this is a very simple infographic to let you know kind of who's part of that core team. Okay, so when we get maybe the question and answer, I'll drop back in and I'll throw these into the chat for you guys. Otherwise, hopefully it'll be pretty easy for you to find. Okay, so we'll go back to here. Any questions so far? Yay, John said he enjoyed the spin conference. Thanks, John. We had a grand time. It's just Susan and I, making the spin conference, but we do have a community of child serving agencies that come and help us plan. And then Susan and I take all those ideas and try to mold it into something. Okay, so the last two for our spin is this infographic here on the left, support for families. If you call us at Spin and you're looking for something, or you're saying, I'm having trouble with my IEP, or the school is giving me pushback, then one of these folks is generally our go-to to call might be LDAH. That's Leadership and Disability and Achievement. They work, excuse me, directly with families and can do some advocacy work, or maybe the community councils or DD council. If it's a medical, it'd be Hilo Pa'a. So just sort of depends. These are sort of our go-tos. And then if you have a question about like, what was the timeline? What did that look like? Then I'm going to look through that parent guide and see, you know, sort of what the law says, and then where do we go from there? Okay. All right. Questions, anybody? If you can unmute, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Okay, so Hawaii Department of Education has 3 levels. So we are the only state that has one unified school district. If you go to the mainland or you're from the mainland, every county pretty much has their own school district, or city has their own school district. But we have one school district, which is made up of complex areas and then districts. And so when we start over here at the state level, those folks, when we're working with our families with disabilities and the students with disabilities, that's the Office of Student Support Services. We call them OSIS. And then under them, they have EBS and SSB, which is the Exceptional Support Branch and the Student Services Branch. If your child needed nursing services, that would be with Student Services Branch. If they needed autism services, that would be with the Exceptional Support Branch. So they do different things. The state office folks are working on big picture programs. They're working on new initiatives up there, trying to make things better for the whole state system. But the thing to remember about the state offices is they have no line authority over schools, and really not much over the districts either. They do a lot of training, but if you call them and say, fix it at my school, they actually have no power to do that. Now, at the district level, that's where we can really start to work and get down nitty gritty to what's going on at schools. So the complex area, so I live on the windward side. We have a windward complex, and there's a complex area superintendent. And that person is in charge of all the schools on the windward side. They oversee all of those schools. There's then within our district, windward district, we have, well, within our complex, we have 2 districts. We've got Kailua to Kalaheo and then Castle to Kahuku. And within those smaller groupings, you'll have district educational specialists. We call them a DES. Anybody heard of a DES before? Some folks haven't. And sometimes that's a good thing, because that means that maybe things haven't been so tough at school, and sometimes we don't want to meet up with our DES because we often bring them in when there's challenges at school. I used our DES to a couple of times when I heard the principal say something, or I heard a teacher say something in IEP, and I thought, that just doesn't sound right. And I would call SPIN, and Susan would tell me like, oh no, that's not right. I would call the DES and say, please come to my next meeting, because this is what they're talking about or telling me. And their job is to help the schools understand IDEA, to keep them from being sued and other things, and help families and help the students to be successful. So they've got the knowledge, those district folks, whereas, you know, principals, they didn't go to school to be a special ed teacher, most of them, and they know parts of the law, but they don't know nitty gritty law stuff. But the DESs really have a lot more knowledge. And that's also where you're going to find your district resource teachers. That could be an autism resource teacher. They have reading teachers there. They have behavior folks there. They have all kinds of folks sitting up at that district level. And then in our 3rd tier is our school. And that's where we're mostly working directly with our school folks. That's your principal and your vice principal, the admin. They're making decisions about the IEP services. You've got your gen ed teachers, your special ed teachers, and then your school-based supports. So we're always starting with the school. If you have a challenge, and you work up to the district, and then you've got your state level folks too. Any questions about that? Okay. So if there is a challenge at the school, then who do you talk to about that? And we always say it's like a chain of command, and we want to start with the school. If you've got a problem with the principal or with a teacher, don't go over anybody's head and go right. Some people call like the state superintendent, Keith Hayashi, like he's going to say, did you talk to your principal? Did you talk to the district people before you ramp things up? So folks that you can talk to at school would be your special education teacher, your general education teacher, and your principal. That's at your school level. If your principal is your gatekeeper, sometimes that happens, then you're going to go up into the district, talk to the district educational specialist or the complex area person. If it's a teacher who might be a gatekeeper or a barrier, then it's the principal that you're going to talk to. If you can't get farther with him, then you go up to the district. If you really just are stuck and don't feel like anybody's listening or they're not working with you to help make plans, then you have the monitoring and compliance branch at the state office. Now, I want to share, I think, wait, did I go? Yeah, I went too far. Okay. So there's a website, and I'll drop it in the chat, I promise, at the end, but there's a space here that you can go. It's an organizational chart. This used to be PDFs, you know, we would have the PDF and we would be looking at who's where and which district. Now everything is virtual or digital. Excuse me, but this is where you can find the folks at the district offices, at the state offices, and even at your school. So if I'm looking like view a different office or a district, and I say, oh, I want to look at a school on the windward side, then I can say, okay, which complex area, or is it the district office? And I say, oh, my kid's in this one over here. And now I can start to really delve down into who they are and what that school is. I can see who the principal is and kind of know who I'm talking about or who I'm trying to get a hold of. Then you can see they don't have phone numbers here. That's where you would probably want to call the Windward District office to get those numbers, or just call the main number at the school, which is right here. But you might say, oh, I want to talk to Miss Anoy, she's a counselor, when you call that main number. Okay, so that's a great tool to find out at your district, at your school, at the state, where folks are and how you get a hold of them. Okay. Questions so far about that? No? Okay.
Can you tell me again? Sorry, can you tell me again what that was? Was that a website, or you're going to share that at the end?
It is a website, and I can get that to you right now here. New organization. I lose my little thingy, but I can drop it right here. Paste.
Thank
There we
you.
go. You're welcome. Okay. And I'll drop the other ones in there too for you towards the end. And then just click on them and they'll open up new tabs, and then you can save them as you go at the end. Okay. But that's a great way to find out who's who and where they are. Okay, now if you don't agree with something that's happening at school, then we have options. We call them our conflict resolution strategies. And they don't always work. But sometimes they do. So why not try? We always want to try the least resistant part of it. And so that's asking for a meeting, asking for an IEP meeting with the teacher. So, hey, I'm seeing that they're not reading as much as I would hope them to read, or they're not advancing in math as much as I wanted them to. So that's talking to the special ed teacher or talking to the gen ed teacher or both of them and having conversations. We've made big strides just by having these meetings outside of the IEP, but just sitting down and talking story. You know, those once a year teacher conference meetings that you get 10 or 15 minutes, that is not the place to hash out like, why isn't my kid reading on grade level? That's just more of an update of how they're doing. So feel free to call the teachers, or if it's a school-based behavior health person, or if it's the speech pathologist or the OT at the school or the district, give them a call and ask for a meeting. This partnership that we want to promote with our schools, between families and schools, can't be one-sided. We have to reach out to them. We can't always say, well, they didn't call me. Well, did you call them? Try to reach out. If they don't reach back out to you, that's their kuleana, not yours, but at least you know you've made that effort. anytime that you are talking to schools or teachers or principals, um, or the district, document that you've called them or emailed them or had a meeting in the hallway with the teacher and hey, what's going on? Why did he miss recess a couple of days ago? I heard he missed recess. Can you tell me what was happening there? And then get back and just have a notebook or type it up and just write, I talked to this teacher on this day around this time, and this is what we discussed. It doesn't have to be super detailed, just sort of bullet points to remind yourself later, oh yeah, I had that conversation. Especially if you're asking for something. Hey, can I get a copy of the test that they did last week? Sure, says the teacher, and probably has every intention of getting it to you, and then everything gets crazy. And so you can then go back and say, hey, remember last week I asked you for that? I'm still waiting for it. Is it possible to get it? So that you know too when it was you asked for something or when you talked to them. So document as you can whenever you have conversations with the schools. If you get frustrated, if you get stuck, you can give us a call and we will point you in a direction. It might be legal help. That would be HDRC. That's the Hawaii Disability Rights Center. It might be advocacy help. And that would be LDAH. That's Leadership in Disability and Achievement Hawaii. That's why we call them LDAH. It's a really long name. But they can help. They can sit down with you and let's go through the IEP together. Let's see where things are. Let's see how these goals were written. Let's see what your services look like, and then help you make a plan from there. If things are still funky and you're finding like none of those things are working, then you can file a complaint with the MAC office. That's the Monitoring and Compliance Branch. You can do it over the phone. You can go online and do it. And I have to tell you that Brikenna White, she is the newish administrator there at the MAC office, and she's really been amazing. She's a special ed teacher, coming up through the ranks. Excuse me. And she's really made a difference. We used to say, like, if you have a problem, file a complaint, but we never know where those complaints sort of went. And the person doing them wasn't always family friendly. And we're hearing back from families like, I called, things got investigated, and there was resolution. It doesn't always go in the family's favor, but at least there's resolution. So that's a great place. And I've got a website. I'll show you where that's at. You can also try mediation. Mediation is by a third party. It's Mediation Center of the Pacific. So you can call the school and say, I would like to request a mediation meeting. It doesn't cost you any money. They have a contract with them. The only thing is that the school can say, we don't want to do mediation. That's their right. Or the school can call you and say, let's do a mediation session. And you have the right to say, I don't want to do it. So both parties have to agree to mediation, but it's a great way to have a third party come in and try to figure out what's going on, where the barriers are, where maybe the miscommunication is happening, and get to the root of what folks are wanting or needing for the kiddos. So if you can, or if you get to that point, try mediation and see if it works for you. And again, I'll show you where that link is. And then if you really just have hit all of those things and they're not working, then you always have the option to file due process. Now, challenge with due process is that we don't have a lot of special education lawyers, and that can make it hard for us as parents. We might have to then file on our own, which is definitely possible. You can, it's called pro se when you file yourself and you represent yourself. If you are a parent representing yourself in due process in a lawsuit with the school, then the school cannot bring a lawyer. It would be a district educational specialist. So just know that if you can't hire a lawyer, they can't hire a lawyer. If you have a lawyer, they will have a lawyer. They make it sort of equal. Now, I told you that you could file mediation. Here it is here. And let me grab this link right now. I'm going to drop it in the chat while I'm remembering to do it. There we go. And this is from the special education page. So if you're on the main website, I think I clicked, yep, there we go. It says special education. Spin actually really kept pushing and pushing and said, we need a special education tab on the website. And they put it right there front and center. And then if we scroll down, there's lots of things. A child find is for our EI families, post-secondary transition. And then right here, it says dispute resolution. You click read more. That's going to talk about mediation, how to get it. If you want to do a complaint, here's the form, here's the letter that talks about it, here's the email that you can send it to. And then if you wanted to do due process, here's what that process looks like. So everything is there. It's pretty transparent. But try, if you can, try your best to try the early things first and see if they work for you. Because Pete Wright from Wright's Law said, you know, special education is like a marriage without the possibility of divorce. So unless you're going to homeschool your kid or put them in private school, we've got to try and work with the schools best we can. And for the most part, 20,000 students in our special education system, we might see 5 to 7 due process hearings a year. It's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, questions about this part? All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about early intervention. I know we've got some families here that are going to be going from the early intervention into the school system. We created this infographic here for those families based on this workshop. So I know that Karen, you have this link and you'll have this recording for folks. But that's also on our website. So remember, you go to the conference website and look under early intervention, and you'll be able to click on the link. And they're going to walk you through this transition from early intervention into DOE. And from that workshop, we made this infographic. So just remember that transition starts early, about 2.5 years old. I wanted to start at 2 because like that was my personality, but they're like, hold your horses, Amanda. It's coming, it's coming. And you'll start to have meetings with your team. You'll start to have meetings with the DOE folks and start thinking about your transition options. You'll have conferences with them. And then you'll make that transition into special education. So it's actually a pretty smooth process, or it should be a fairly smooth process. You know, when you're thinking about transitioning from early intervention, which is very family focused, into the Department of Education, which is very child focused, things to remember and think about as you're making that transition. And for our families going into high school and even adult, these are still good strategies. You just think about them as, you know, your high schooler versus your preschooler. But talk to your family, talk to your spouse about what it is you want for your kiddo going into preschool. What kind of inclusion opportunities might you want for them? Because right now, the way our system is set up, special education preschool is like a fully self-contained classroom. And only the kids in there are special ed students. They don't have access to non-SPED students unless you are in Head Start or early Head Start. And there's a few other programs out there that do more of an inclusive preschool setting, or unless you go to a private school setting, or some of the Tutu-and-Me preschools, things like that might be more inclusive. So think about what you want for your kiddo and what your early education goals are and your communication goals are, and kind of have those in your mind, because they're going to be coming and they're going to be asking those questions. Talk to your team about special programs. So if you have a child with autism, what do the autism programs look like? Who is that specialist from the district? Are they going to be coming down? Is there ABA available? If your student is deaf or hard of hearing, my kid is deaf. And so we looked at programs. We lived in Waimanalo when he was little, but he went to a program in Kailua because that's where the program was. And then he went to the deaf school for a little while, and then he went back to a program school. If there's vision or physical needs, ask about different schools who do have programs set up so that they can serve more kids and not have their resources too spread out. Think about transportation. That's a big one. I know folks, you know, so for our experience, my kiddo is deaf. And so I knew families who lived EVA and they wanted their kid to go to the deaf school. But on a bus for a 3-year-old, that might have been a 90-minute or 2-hour ride each way, depending on the traffic in the morning. And for some families, like, I no, can't do that. I actually drove my kiddo to school at the deaf school. I worked at the zoo, so it was really close, but we decided we didn't want him to be on the bus that long. And then if you have nursing or other medical needs, be sure to be thinking about what that looks like and bring that up to your team and ask them, what does that look like at school? Be prepared to talk about programs and settings. If it's a private preschool, remember that they do not offer IDEA. There's no IEP. There's no special education services at a private school. They may say, yes, we can work with your student. Yes, we can do these things. But those teachers probably don't have special ed training, and they can get frustrated sometimes if behavior starts to come up or if kids are falling too far behind. And so it might not be the best environment moving forward, but maybe it's a good fit as a preschooler. Ask about what DOE is offering, what those IEP services look like. And then, there's no requirement for you to put your kid into preschool, Department of Education preschool. You can do community programs, you can do play groups, you can do mommy and me traveling preschools. You can keep them at home and do your own thing at home. There's no requirement for kids to go to preschool right now. Only, is it kindergarten or first grade for sure? I can't remember if they've pushed it back to kindergarten as compulsory. Kids have to go to school. But they're just like early intervention. The earlier you can get services to your kiddo, the better for them. So John's asking, what's SPIN's opinion on expanding the age of EI to 4 or 5-year-olds? There was some talk in the legislature about that. There has been talk about that, John, and it depends. It depends sometimes on who I'm talking to for 4 and 5-year-olds to be still in preschool. But there's also something to be said for that inclusion piece and having them with their same age peers. And I can remember my kiddo, like, we had to really push for him in junior kindergarten and kindergarten to be in with the kids. They wanted to keep him separate. And I said, how's he going to learn same age appropriate behavior and language if he's not with same age kids? So I think it would depend on how they wanted to set it up with early intervention. Because right now, early intervention is its own pot of money and it's separate from the Department of Education. They've split the ages, they've split the pot of money. Some states do have that early intervention organizations have kids up to 4 and 5. So that would be a big push for early intervention too, to have to increase their capacity. So sometimes it depends on what the question is, who we're talking to. Could we increase capacity for early intervention? We struggle as it is right now with our birth to 3. So what I would like to see though, John, is universal preschool. I would love to see preschool expanded for all students so that families who can't afford private preschool have a place for their kiddos to go. Our kids can go, but my neighbor's kid who doesn't have a disability, they had to pay for private preschool. So I would love to see universal preschool, and then we have opportunities for our kids to be included with non-disabled peers. So that's where my heart lies, but it can go either way. All right, questions about this process? Okay. If I miss something, or if you think about something, it's okay to jump in, okay? Or pop it in the chat, or just say, I forgot to ask. It's okay. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about high school transition. Now, for our early intervention families, you might go like, I just can't even think about high school. It's too much. And I feel ya. When my kiddo was in elementary school, like, I don't even want to talk about transition because that's too far away. I got to focus on what's happening right now. But there are things that we can do to help prepare our kiddos as they're moving through the educational system, and our own mindset that will help them prepare for transition later. I know that I got bogged down when my kiddo was in 6th grade, and families or schools telling you, he's never gonna, He'd always fail his, his standardized testing. It's not going to be possible. And you hear it from doctors, you hear it from teachers, you hear it from counselors and therapists and family members, all the things that your kiddo cannot do. It's there in the beginning of your IEP, all the things that they cannot do. And I, as a mom, started to absorb that and to believe it, because he wasn't performing where I'd hoped that he would. But you know what? It was a teacher who said, Amanda, why isn't Ikaika, my son, in my math class? She was a gen ed teacher. And I said, because nobody wanted him. She says, I think he really can do it if we give him the right support. And it was that teacher who showed me, like, I need to have higher expectations. So when we're talking about our early intervention families all the way up through transition, it really, I want you guys to remember that our kids are beautiful and strong and vibrant. And it doesn't matter what that disability looks like, that they can they can make great strides and they can accomplish great things if we believe them to do it. Now, is my kid going to be a doctor? No, he's not going to be a doctor, but he wants to be in film. Can he work in the film industry? Yeah, I really think he can work in the film industry. And I think that whoever he works with is going to look at him and go, that's a pretty cool kid. I hope that they do anyway. So even as our early intervention families, keeping that mindset of we are our kids' strongest supporters. Don't let anybody lower those expectations for you or your kiddo. Keep them high, keep them up. And if you get down and about, because we all do, give us a call at Spin and we'll talk you back into those high expectations, and we'll try and get that turned around. Okay. So we have got a lot of great infographics. I showed you a little bit of them earlier on transition and things dedicated, again, early intervention and in the other end of the spectrum. And we've got some great workshops for you guys too. Now, this is one of my favorite infographics that we did, because it's a start here, start now. And I hear a lot from families that say, oh, my kid's 19, it's too late. It's not too late to start thinking about transition. Oh, my kid's only in elementary school. It's too early. It's not too early to be thinking about transition, because we can start with financial literacy pieces. Give them a little job, give them a little allowance, start creating a piggy bank that one says money I'm saving and one that says money I'm going to spend so that they can start to understand about money and saving it and what it takes to do it. Start thinking about job exploration. We hear from, gen ed kids like, what do you want to be, little Johnny? I want to be a fireman. Oh, that's so sweet. But if our kids say, if Ikaika said, I want to be a fireman, they go, oh, that's really sweet. It's a different connotation, right? We want to increase our children's exposure to jobs. We want to follow that interest, do a camp, do a class, watch things online. And if they go like, it's not for me anymore, that's okay. Move on to the next thing. And it might even be finding out why they wanted to be a fireman. Is it the outfit that they wear? They liked the uniform, or they like the big hat, or they like the big truck. Maybe it's driving trucks that they're really interested in. Maybe it's helping people. So really pursue them. And this is things that we're going to be looking at all the way. So if your kid's 15, Julia, you can still be thinking about job exploration, even though we put that kind of in the early stage, because these are transition happens. My kid's 20, we are still going through transition. It takes time and it's a process. When your kid gets to be about 14 in middle school, you want to think about if they're going to have a diploma or are they going to have a certificate. Those are two different things. You can go to community college with a certificate, but not a four-year college. If you are going on the diploma track, you've got to get all those credits in, including math. That was our big challenge, math and English. But he made it through with lots of supports. And kids don't have to adhere to 4 years of high school to get those credits. You can be a 5th-year student. You can be a 6th-year student to get the credits that you need in order to graduate high school. But you got to be thinking about that in middle school, because if you get to junior in high school going, wait, I'm on a certificate track, my kid's on certificate, I thought they were getting a diploma. It's getting a little bit too late, and they've lost a lot of those core class, that ability to do those core classes, because you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So have those conversations with your team early. I remember sitting in the transition from middle school to high school, and the middle school team knew him pretty well. He'd been in inclusion. They were pretty confident. And then the high school team only saw the piece of paper. And when they said, Mrs. Ka'ahanui, what do you want for your son? And I said, I want him to graduate with his cohort, with that 4-year cohort. And she looked at me and she said, Mrs. Ka'ahanui, have you seen the PLEP? And I was like, yeah, I've seen the piece of paper that says he doesn't do well on tests, but that doesn't mean that we can't support him. And he did. Thank goodness we had a new principal with a different outlook on students, and he did graduate with his peers. But you got to be thinking about those things. Other things, there's a thing called an ABLE account. We've got a great infographic about them, and Daintree probably talked about them when she did her talk. It's a great way to save money in a protected bank account, so that if they have Medicaid or if they have Social Security or other government benefits, it's protected up to, it has a cap, but anybody can, they get $100 from Aunt Bernie, then that money can go into the ABLE account, and they can spend it on clothes and food and travel and cars and transportation and movies, rent, and there's lots of things they can spend their money. In middle school, we start talking about DVR and job training and job exploration. And one thing that I want you to remember about that is that you are the one that has to invite them. Now, we want the schools to remind families like, hey, there's the Division of Vocational Rehab that can do job training and exploration with your kiddo. Would you like us to invite them to the next meeting? That's what we hope happens, but often it doesn't. Schools think, oh, parents will tell us when they want it, but parents don't know what we don't know. So you are the ones that have to invite DVR or even DDD, which is Developmental Disability Division. If you think your kid might qualify, you have to invite them to the IEP meetings, or tell the teacher, please invite them to the meetings. At 18, is this age of majority. When they turn 18 years old, there's 4 choices. 1, they are self-representing. I'm 18 years old. I can make my own decisions. I'm making my own IEP decisions. Parents don't get invited to the meeting unless the student invites them. We don't get to decide or choose or make decisions about the IEP process anymore. Number 2 is that you get a power of attorney for education. This power of attorney expires when they either age out or graduate, but that's what we did for our kiddo. I was able to then, I got it notarized, and we were able to go in and still help make those decisions with him. 3 is if they don't have the ability to make decisions, they have decisional incapacity, you can get a note written by your doctor or someone from DDD that says they cannot, and then you can come and still make those decisions. And then 4 is guardianship, and that's the most restrictive. So that happens at 18. Just talked to a mom a couple weeks ago, and she's like, my kid is 19. I'm not going to the IEP. Nobody's inviting me to the IEP meetings. He doesn't want me to come. What am I going to do? And I was like, yeah, sort of missed your window with that process. You're out of the loop. So it's something you want to talk to your kiddo about, something you want to talk to your team about, and be prepared when 18 comes. And just for moms and dads to know, for parents to know, transition is more than, are they going to go to college or are they going to get a job? Transition is also about changing your doctor from pediatric to adult health, changing your insurance providers. My kid had Medicaid, so then getting Medicaid record on his own, signing up for getting his ID, state ID, signing him up to register to vote, like you guys are going to talk about the next time you have this meeting. And also for selective service. I have a son. He had to sign up for the draft, basically. Now, is he going to get called to draft? He's not going to go to war because he has a disability, but you still are required to sign up. So I gave you a lot of information there, a lot. And I don't want you to feel like it's all, oh, I missed this one. it's all googly goop and I've blown your head up. But there's a lot. And we've covered like birth to 22 in an hour, and that's pretty good. For my transition families, here's the last one that I want to share with you. And it's called, oops, I'm gonna get the link here and I'm gonna drop it in the chat. It's called Footsteps to Transition. It's a local website. Get back to my page here because I've lost my page. Where'd my PDF go? There it is. Okay. It's a local website. Spin actually helps to create it and keep it going. But you've got these great workbooks here. These are fantastic tools to help us like, oh yeah, I got to get the ID. Oh yeah, I have to do these things. But it also there's videos in there. There's stuff on self-determination. If I put the health one here so you can get a portable health record. How do you prepare your kid for going in to see the doctor on their own for the first time? All of those things are in there. So that is also a great website, and I'll show you what it looks like here real quick. When you come, this is the transition one, but if you wanted to talk about money or turning 18, it's here. And if you scroll down, there's a video here about turning 18 and what you can do. That transfer of rights infographic is here. There's power of attorneys that the Department of Education has approved, these forms that can be filled out. If you are getting to be 18 and worried about healthcare decisions, there's this uniform healthcare decision form. So lots of good stuff in here. Here's the ABLE account things and more. So I've got 3 minutes. Sorry, I went a lot. Is a PDF available of the screen shown on this webinar so we can print them at home? I sent a PDF to Karen. So I bet you if you just sent her an email or reply to the email that you got the Zoom link in, she can send you those slides.
You
Yeah,
don't even have
absolutely.
to do that. I will send it out to all of you to have. And we have the recording as well. If you do want a copy of the recording, you can hit me up and let me know that. Yeah, I will go ahead and send that out. And then you can share it as you'd like. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing so much information. There's so much good stuff.
Sorry,
I don't want to take
there's
any,
so much.
I don't want to take any more time from other folks. Does anyone have questions for Amanda?
And just know that you can call us. I'm going to put my name in the chat here, my email, doh.hawaii. I can't spell and talk. I can't talk and type at the same time. .gov. There we go. And our phone number at Spin. There we go. So you can give us a call. I telework on Thursdays and Fridays, but Susan's in the office. She teleworks Mondays and Tuesdays, and I'm in the office, and we're both there on Wednesdays. So you'll catch one of us if you give us a call or shoot us an email. But we're always happy to just talk you off the ledge. Sometimes families just need to vent. You can call us and go like, and then we get through it and think about next steps. Sometimes we just brainstorm or we just help you find who you're looking for and off you go. So please do know that we're a resource for families. We're also a resource for the professionals who serve them. So any of your early intervention team members have questions about how to help support a family, give us a call and we're happy to help with that too.
And sign up for their publications because they share a lot of information from a lot of agencies like ours, like LDAH. A lot of agencies we work with who are supremely helpful. So sometimes stuff that we don't know about, Amanda and Susan will know about, and they'll share it. They'll blast out an e-blast to their entire database about an upcoming conference or an upcoming opportunity that we might not know about. So definitely, sign up for notifications from them because they are an amazing clearinghouse for resources. Truly, truly.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, we do have a newsletter that goes out quarterly. We're a little bit late on our May, so we're working on a June. And then we have e-blast. So if something is happening in the community, I sent 2 out today, then we will blast them out for folks. So we're just kind of this doorway to get information out to families. Absolutely. Hey, I think I blew up their heads, Karen.
That's okay.
It
That's
was a
okay.
lot.
That's okay. You may be getting some phone calls this week, which will also be okay. And I
I hope
think this
so.
was
Yeah.
super helpful for our early intervention staff. We have care coordinators, we have occupational therapists, we have speech therapists, we have special educators, we have all kinds of folks on the call. And the parents ask them all the time about that transition. So just going over resources that they can share with their families is huge. And then obviously for those folks heading into high school, like where you want to be, where you think you might want to be. And again, Amanda, having been through this with her own son who is 20, is a guide, not only a professional guide, but has the personal experience. So certainly, reach out should you need to. And does anyone have any more questions? I don't want to.
I dropped our websites in the chat, so you can click on them and it'll open up into a new tab for you, so you can see them there. And then please do reach out anytime. We are here. Even if your kids are aging out past the 22, we're still here for you.
One more time, if you haven't put your zip code in the chat, please do that for me so that I have it. We are just tracking zip codes, so we can let the city and county know who we've served with this project. And I will leave the chat up for a little bit as folks. So if there are links, click on those links that Amanda has shared with you now, because those will not pop up in the recording. The chat won't pop up in the recording. So if there's a link you're interested in, go back through the chat, click on it now so that it opens and you can bookmark it before we close it, before you close out of the Zoom. Thank you again. Mahalo nui loa, Amanda. You are always amazing. I owe you a cup of coffee. I owe you a good concert ticket. And thank you all for joining us. Please share with those who you think would be helped. You can certainly reach out to me. I know most of you folks have my email address. You can reach out to me if you need more information, if you need other connections made. And thank you all so very much for being with us tonight. I hope this was helpful to you.
Aloha. Awesome sauce. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Don't
You're the
forget to stop
best.
your recording.